Here's something I run into quite often out here in the North Valley. Someone's building a new home or adding a shop, a barn, a guest house, maybe just trying to get power out to an existing outbuilding. And at some point they get stuck. They need something dug underground and they have no idea who to call. Not the electrician, not the plumber. They install what goes in the trench, but the actual digging, that's a different conversation. And most people don't know that until they're already in the middle of a project, scrambling to figure it out. So let me save you that scramble right now. My name's Mark. I run AccuDirt Earthworks out in North Scottsdale. We do excavation and site prep all over the North Valley, Cave Creek, Rio Verde, Desert Hills, North Phoenix. And utility trenching is part of what we do for everything from custom home builds down to running out a conduit line to a detached garage or a workshop. The last one is worth stopping on for a second because a lot of people watching this have probably been putting that project off simply because they're not sure who to call. You want power trenched to an outbuilding, which means your electrician needs a conduit in the ground between the main panel and that structure. That trench needs to be dug at the right depth. The conduit gets placed, and then a building inspector has to inspect and approve it before it can be backfilled. So plan on at least 2 days minimum, 1 day to dig, and hopefully your electrician can lay in the conduit that same day, and the next day for the inspection before we close it back up, assuming there are no delays or issues with the inspection. Now, once that's backfilled and done, you're ready for your electrician to pull the wire and get you powered up. Same with water. So basically, AccuDirt provides excavation and backfill only. The conduit or water line placement and permit responsibility is by your licensed electrician or plumbing contractor. The owner or their trade contractor is responsible for obtaining planned permits and calling 811 locating service prior to any trench work. For the bigger projects, new home builds, additions, shops with their own service, the scope gets a little wider, but the principle is still the same. Water service coming in, electrical conduit from your meter to the structure, those exterior underground runs need to be in the ground at the right point in your build, and somebody needs to do that work. Here's where sequencing really matters. And this is the part most people miss. On a new build or a major addition, we typically don't do the utility runs at the same time we're doing your pad or your site prep because the lines come out of the ground and run vertically just outside your foundation or stem wall. And those walls have to be there first. So there's normally a second trip. That's just how it sequences out. Most times when I bid a site prep job, I try to at least offer to include the exterior utility runs as a phase 2 option with a separate line item, a return trip, all priced before we ever start phase 1. You'll know who's coming back and when. So no surprises mid-build when you suddenly need a trench and you haven't budgeted for it. And here's the other reason timing matters that people, they don't think about it. Those trenches need time to settle, so when they go in early, they have time to settle before your finished grading and landscaping happens later. You want that settlement to happen during construction, not after you're done. Sunken trench lines showing up across a finished yard after the fact is completely avoidable if the work gets done at the right time. Now, let me cover 2 things you need to handle on your end before any of this work gets scheduled. First is permits. Here's a simple version. The permit for the electrical work gets pulled by your electrician. The permit for plumbing gets pulled by your plumber. They handle that as part of their scope. What you need to do is make sure those conversations are happening early, not the week before you need the trench dug. Every city and county out here does things a little bit differently, so Check with whoever issued your building permit to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. This applies whether it's for electrical, water, gas, sewer, grading-related trenches, conduit, drainage pipe, or culvert work. Just ask the questions early on and you'll be fine. Second, and this one is important, it's not a suggestion, in Arizona, you should treat calling 811 or Arizona Blue Stake as legally required before trenching or excavating. So before anybody digs anything on your property, you have to call 811. That's so they have underground utility lines marked before digging begins. Think of it this way. There are already lines buried under your property, power, gas, water, cable, and nobody can see them. You call 811. They send someone out to mark with spray paint exactly where those lines are, and then we know where it's safe to dig. You need to do that at least 3 business days before the work is scheduled to start. It's free, it's required by Arizona law, and skipping it can turn a simple trench job into a very expensive and dangerous problem very fast. One more thing I'll mention. At this time, we don't do septic. That requires a different specialty license, and you'll need a dedicated contractor for that. Everything else on the exterior underground side is fair game for us. So whether you're breaking ground on a custom home, adding a structure to your property, or just trying to finally get power trenched out to that shop that's been sitting in the dark for 2 years, this is some of the work we do. If you want to talk through your specific situation, just head over to AccuDirt.com and drop your info in the form, or give me a call and we'll get together. Half the time, a 15-minute conversation on the phone is all it takes to figure out exactly what you need. I'm Mark. I hope this helps. I'll see you in the next video.